What's up, guys? Welcome to this new video here on Elvis is the Man. I've been out of the loop for about the past month and a half. Work has been super busy, but I want to get back in the habit of bringing you guys videos weekly, and here's the first one, okay? So I came across the book by Barbara Lay. It's called The King, the Queen, and the Love Machine. So this is the first story I want to bring to you from this book. How did Elvis meet Barbara Lay? Now, Barbara Lay was an aspiring actress, aspiring model at this time. This was 1970s summer. So story goes like this. This is how they met. It was August 30th, 1970. Barbara was dating MGM president James Aubrey. James had suggested they see Elvis that night. This was just after MGM had wrapped up the filming of That's the Way It Is in Las Vegas. So they decided to fly to Las Vegas to take up this opportunity to see Elvis. Now, a little backstory of what was going on. MGM needed still some footage of the audience to wrap up and fill in some spots for their That's the Way It Is movie. So they flew to Phoenix to get the first date of Elvis's September tour. Unfortunately, the camera guys, as far as we know so far, else the footage would have come out by now, they only filmed about 10 to 12 minutes of the audience, never turned the camera around on Elvis, which is so, disappointing. Maybe we'll see some footage in the future. But anyway, back to the story. So Barbara was extremely excited to see Elvis because Elvis was her childhood idol. She remembers seeing Elvis on TV all the time back in the day, 1956, on the Ed Sullivan Show. So Barbara and James were seated in Elvis's booth in Vegas, so that would mean that they were front row and center. So finally, after much anticipation, Elvis walks on stage in his familiar, confident, I'm on top of the world type strut. She said that Elvis kept glancing her way, making eye contact and smiling. Later, after the show, she found out that Joe Esposito tipped off Elvis that he should check out James's date, seated front and center, and that he thinks that he would like her. Well, Elvis did. They were invited by Joe before the show to actually meet Elvis backstage later that night. So at the conclusion of Can't Help Falling in Love, Red escorts them both backstage to Elvis's dressing room. So the room was filled with celebrities, but no Elvis. So keep in mind, this was August 30th, 1970. So Elvis was like looking in his prime. MGM had just finished filming all the shows. So she's sitting backstage waiting for Elvis. She says that she had this feeling of being watched, like a sixth sense, like somebody's just watching her the whole time. And she was talking and making small talk with Ricky Nelson's wife. Now, just as soon as James, which was Barbara's boyfriend, the head of MGM at the time, as soon as he left the table, Elvis swoops in. He introduced himself with his usual, "Hi, I'm Elvis Presley," and Elvis right away detected Barbara's southern accent because she was from the South herself. He asked how she liked the show, and she says, of course, it was wonderful, you're the greatest, and Elvis smiles real big. He asked also if he could see her again, and he very slyly slipped her a pencil and a pad of paper underneath the table without anybody noticing for her to write her number on. So, as you could imagine, Barbara secretly writes her number on the pad of paper that Elvis gave her without even looking down at it, trying to be all sneaky, people in the room. Just then, she kind of notices and feels James' eyes on her like lasers from across the room. So it wasn't too long before James caught on that Elvis swooped in and is now taking his spot at the table, talking to his, the love of his life. And Barbara, keep in mind, said that she didn't feel bad, that she was with James and that Elvis was married to Priscilla. She was just in the moment and taking full advantage of it. So soon after Barbara gives Elvis her number, James comes back to the table from behind, puts his hand on her shoulder and says, "It's time to go." Elvis clutched her hand and said, "I'll see you again real soon," and gave her a wink. And Barbara says that she realized that wink meant he's going to call her. So guys, that was actually Barbara's account of their first meeting, Elvis and Barbara there in Las Vegas. So I don't think the MGM film camera crews were actually there at that moment. They were probably just wrapped up and getting ready to meet in Phoenix about a week later. But anyway, so what do you guys think of this story? Tell me in the comments what you guys think about it. You know, I know that some of you are putting yourself in Barbara's place, what you would do if you were there that night with that opportunity. You know, James was the head of MGM at the time, and she says in her book that, like, you know, Barbara, I think, was only like 24 at this time. Elvis was 35, but James was, I believe, you know, much older than her, like in his 50s or so. And she says that she didn't mind that, you know, he was so much older than her, and he had money and success, and she, you know, liked his swag and just everything. But when it came to Elvis, when she saw Elvis, she put all that aside and just went on her emotion. You know, for the women out there, if you were Barbara, if you were in her shoes, do you think you would have done the same thing? And also, you got to put yourself, I know some of you guys put yourself in James' spot. Like, you know, if you were in that situation, do you think that you would feel intimidated, you know, by Elvis swooping in on your girl? Do you think that, like, you wouldn't say anything? Do you think you would go up and be aggressive toward Elvis? Like, what are you doing? Or maybe you would just, like, not create a scene and just, you know, talk to Barbara about it later, because Barbara says that, you know, James, what he did was he would always kind of pout when he would, you know, have those type of feelings, and he was very distant to her the rest of the night, and, you know, wasn't talking to her, and she would have to go about her way of, you know, kissing up to him, you know, trying to get him out of his mood and this and that. And also, you got to also look at Elvis's point of view. You know, he was married to Priscilla, but you all know that, you know, even at the end of 1969, he was asked by the press, you know, about what's going on and why he was traveling, and he went to the Bahamas. You know, I made a video on that he wanted to go to Europe, but Colonel said, no, you can't do that. You can't, you know, visit Europe before you actually perform there. So one of the things that Elvis was asked by a reporter, you know, Elvis commented and says, well, that's what a bad marriage would do for you. This is 1969, okay? Some of you guys don't want to admit that, but this was 1969, and Elvis said he had a bad marriage to Priscilla. It's in the book Elvis Day by Day, verbatim, okay? So 9 months later, August 1970, you know, Elvis is slipping his number to this model. And, you know, also at this time, I don't know if any of you remember, but he's also starting to date Joyce Bova. He met her in 1969. So what do you guys think about Elvis's moves here? If you were Elvis, would you have done the same thing? Or do you think Elvis had just been committed to Priscilla at this time? Anyway, this is the video for today. I hope you like it. Hit the like button if you do. Subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll talk to you guys next time.